Undefeated heavyweight prospect, Odie Delaney. Appreciate the time, man. How's life on your side of the world right now?
Hey man, things are good, and hey, I appreciate you having me on here, man. I like getting a little bit of exposure. Kumite TV is awesome, man.
Thank you so much, man. Let's jump right into it. Your background is in wrestling. You have so many accolades, man. You're the All-American, state champion, Division 1 All-American. I think four conference championships. We'll get into that, but I want to talk about your beginnings as a wrestler. Did you start wrestling early like everybody else, or did you start a little bit later on?
I grew up in Alaska with a ton of older cousins, so it kind of started as a way to survive cookouts. uh, when I got the opportunity to actually get into a wrestling room in Florida, yeah, I jumped right on it, man. And I was horrible at first, but it was something that just became a passion, and I've never been able to stop.
It must have been crazy to have so many, like you said, you have cousins and everybody's wrestling, and there's a wrestling match going on everywhere you go, probably, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I started doing it just to kind of defend myself, and then fell in love. So yeah, like I said, I haven't been able to stop. I wrestled in middle school a little bit in Alaska. It was horrible. Went down to Florida, wrestled my freshman year, was horrible, but then I started taking off. Stuck with it.
How did you end up in Florida? You were in Alaska growing up. You said middle school. What's the connection there
Yeah,
to Florida?
I was born and raised in Alaska, and then my mom married my stepdad, who's a fighter pilot in the Air Force, and he got stationed in Florida. So me and my whole family moved down to Florida, and that's really where the wrestling took off because I was able to get some pretty high level training, do that thing. So that was good.
Were you always in love with the wrestling, or did it form in Florida?
It kind of formed in Florida, I think. Sergey, Conor McGregor's head wrestling coach. Sergey was actually one of my high school wrestling coaches, and he kind of instilled that love for wrestling in me. So he's a phenomenal coach, and yeah, kind of put that love for it in me, and kind of showed me what I could do in it. So yeah, thank you,
Is
Sergey.
that yeah, definitely. Is that where you realized that you could take this, further with your life? You know what I mean?
Yeah, back then wrestling was kind of all I cared about. I mean, I ate, slept, and drank wrestling. I mean, I woke up, ran to school 5 miles. I would wrestle and play football just to stay in shape for wrestling, wrestle in the off season. Yeah, it was around that time when I decided that, I could actually do something in athletics. So at that point, I set my sights on becoming an All-American.
Why did you decide to go to the Citadel, out of all the colleges in the United States?
Yeah, so academically, I've always had a little bit of trouble learning disability and spelling and written language. So I knew I had to be somewhere with a lot of discipline that kind of forced me to do my schoolwork. And I thought it would be good for my development, as a man. So I chose the Citadel for those reasons. It's a military academy that's um, very, very well renowned, and people, as far as like getting a job, people know who you are if you come from the Citadel. It's got a strict honor code. You gotta mind your P's and Q's to even get through that place. So yeah, I picked that for that reason.
I mentioned earlier you were Division 1 All-American, four conference championships. Your time at the Citadel, can you describe that in a couple sentences? It must have been
Oh man.
phenomenal.
Yeah, the saying is, it's horrible to be there, but it's awesome to be from there. It's a tough school. I mean, um, yeah, I mean, you got to balance academics, the military side of things, your personal life. They give you way more duties than you can possibly get done in the amount of time there is in a day. So you have to balance all of those things and still achieve, athletically and academically. So it was tough, but I came out on the other side a much stronger person.
Definitely, most likely mentally stronger than more anything, I guess, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Man, you wouldn't believe how many times that I would sit in my room and just like Googling other schools, where can I get a scholarship somewhere else? How can I get out of this hell? But thankfully I have parents that just wouldn't let me quit, and kind of instilled that in me from a young age that you never quit. So I stuck it out, and I'm glad I did.
What were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome during your time there?
Um, hmm. I mean, just having too many difficult things to handle all at once. Like I said, I mean, you're away from your family. You don't your whole first year you pretty much don't get to see your family for I mean almost for a year straight. A weekend here and there maybe. Um, so just being away from your support system and finally getting to a point in life where it's like, okay, I've got to do this all by myself. I've got to the time management, the mental toughness, the go get it attitude. Like I've got to drive that all in myself and get it done. So it kind of turns you into a man.
All of that, all those years at the Citadel, it got you inducted into the Citadel Athletic Hall of Fame. How was that day?
Amazing. I mean, that was got to be one of the highlights of my life. I had, being from that school is a really tight knit group. Everybody knows each other, and I heard a lot of the names that were in the Citadel Hall of Fame, and just absolute legends. Not only athletically but militarily. Patriots that just a lot of them gave their lives for this country, and just to have my name next to theirs in the Citadel Athletic Hall of Fame, it's just such an honor. Like sometimes I feel like I don't even belong up there with those guys, but man, I am proud to be there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, your story is still being written, so you never know what's gonna
That's
happen
right.
at the end, right? Now, after you
Absolutely.
graduate, you continue wrestling, or did you just stop and get into a career?
Yeah. So after the Citadel, I kind of my undergrad was in criminal justice, and I kind of fell in love with law enforcement. I fell in love with I've always been a patriot, but I kind of felt the duty to do something with my degree. And all these other guys around me were getting deployed, signing up with the military, and I thought that I could make a huge difference in law enforcement. So I went ahead and got a job with the Charleston City Police Department right there, same town the Citadel's in, and got started there. Yeah.
During your time in Charleston, you earned an award for valor for the Charleston Massacre 9. Man,
Yeah.
it must have been one of the most. You've been through a lot already, but man, that is probably another level in your life. Like I said earlier, just your story continuing the chapter of adversity, man. How was looking back at that moment? It's what do you think? What can you tell people? What did you learn from that experience?
Um, I'd say that the number one thing I learned from that experience is what hatred can do. If you let hatred fester in your heart for a group of people, or I mean, really towards anything, it's going to destroy you and it's going to destroy other people. So, what I witnessed during that tragedy was, what hatred what it leads to, what it finally plays out as, which was that horrible day. Yeah, that day changed my life forever. Hmm. Well, one thing, kind of not only mentally but physically, after that day, I developed a panic attack disorder. I would have panic attacks all the time, and that kind of forced my hand to get out of law enforcement. And honestly, like that's kind of what put me back into the athletics. I loved what I did. I loved my job. After I developed the panic attacks, I realized that I couldn't really do it effectively. I was a danger to myself and the guys that were around me. Um, so I kind of made the decision that I need to get into something uh, where I can make a real difference, and that's kind of why I'm doing MMA. I'm not really in for the fame, the glory, and the riches. I'm in MMA to build a platform so that I can spread, the message of love, hope, and peace, and fight hatred on the front line. I want to be able to be an example for a lot of young men and women, and kind of do something about it. This world is full of just hate right now, and you can sit behind your computer and Facebook about it all day long, but unless you get out and do something, I mean, how are you helping?
Yeah, I think that's the main question is how are you helping, right? It's not,
Right.
people are out there doing criminal acts where, it doesn't have nothing to do with what's going on in the world. They just want to go out there and loot and when you see
Yeah.
that, in the streets, man, you must shake your head and like in a way disgust, right? Because they're just out there doing things just to do it. Like when they're burning buildings down for no reason and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. The criminal acts.
Mm.
I believe in your right to protest. I believe in the First Amendment. I would die for someone's right to protest. And especially because so many grievances are 100% legitimate. but yeah, to take advantage of the situation, to conduct criminal acts, to to steal. I mean, what good is a TV going to be doing? Like, how does that help anything?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's two sides to the coin. But yeah, I do look at the criminal stuff. And I just, what the heck is going on with this world right now? And that's why I feel like I need to do something. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, be a voice, man, and it's gonna continue. So you could be a voice for many, many years to come. That's great, man. Using that platform, that transition, that you had into MMA. Now, when you got into training, were you a little rusty, or did your body feel right when you got back in and started training MMA?
Well, I first got into jujitsu, so I started with jujitsu, and that was a really easy, fun transition for me. The style of wrestler I wasn't like a super explosive wrestler. I was kind of a slow, methodical, better my position inch by inch kind of wrestler, and that just worked perfect for jujitsu. So that kind of became my first passion, and then slowly it's like, okay, I love jujitsu. Let's try striking, and that's really where I've had a lot of fun, is because striking it's like ping pong and tennis, man. It's like it's all combat, but striking is just a whole nother sport. So it's like it kind of reinvigorated me. I got a whole nother thing I get to learn now, and man, it's coming along really nicely. I'm excited to kind of showcase that.
That's what everybody loves, is those knockouts, right?
Yeah, everyone wants the knockout.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially from the heavyweights, from the bigger weight classes, they want those massive knockouts. So now going
yeah.
back to the jiu-jitsu, right, and being in law enforcement, you hear people say, like, from the outside, they're not actually police officers. They're saying, oh, police officers, they should all have purple belts. If you want to be a police officer, is that realistic?
I don't know if it's realistic to implement. Is it true that they should be purple belts? Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I avoided having to hurt somebody because I could just manhandle them. Plenty of times people try to resist, try to fight, but I'm a big guy, and had a really good wrestling background and was getting pretty good at jujitsu. There wasn't an incident where when I had to hold somebody, they could never get away from me. I mean, it was in handcuffs like that. So yeah, I agree that law enforcement officers should be really high level at jujitsu. I like that movement. I don't know how it's going to be implemented. It costs a lot of money. It's a lot of training. It's a lot of injured police training jujitsu.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree with it. I think that's the direction we need to move for sure.
And
Safer for everyone.
not everybody's gonna be good at jujitsu too, even though you're a police officer, right?
Yeah, that's right. But the good thing about jujitsu is it does kind of negate some of that size and strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you take a guy that knows even basic jujitsu against a big, strong guy that knows no
Yeah.
jujitsu, it's still a pretty one-sided fight.
Yeah. You take that back and take the neck, it's over. It doesn't matter how big you are.
That's right.
And you don't know how to defend? Yeah, that's definitely true. Now let's talk about your first year as a professional fighter, 2019. You go 2-0. Did that year play out like you planned?
Um, the one thing that I'm not used to is the difficulty of getting fights. So in wrestling, you're not fighting, you're grappling every weekend. You got a tournament or a dual meet every weekend for 7 months straight. And I don't know if I was just kind of naive, but I thought when I got into fighting, everyone was just going to be down to fight and nobody would care about their record and they just go in there and get it. But that's just not the case. I've had so many fights try to get lined up and then get declined and declined and declined, and it's been a really struggle. So I guess the one thing that I kind of didn't like about 2019 is not enough fights.
You got two things going on. You're a heavyweight, which means the pool of fighters are not as many as other weight classes. And number two, the internet is not good for you, right? Because they could Google you and find out exactly what you're about, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the internet doesn't help. Yeah, and the guys I'm training with don't help either. I got Andre Arlovsky, Junior Dos Santos, Philippe Lenz, Greg Hardy, Saeed Soma. They're all, we train and then they all take pictures and those get on the Instagram, and then it's like my opponents look at that like, oh crap, no, I ain't gonna do it. So yeah, it's fun though.
So right now you're currently with American Top Team.
Yes, and it's the best move I've ever made in my life. I mean, I was training with Alan Belcher. That was kind of my first like real step into MMA. Alan Belcher MMA in Mississippi. I love that guy. Alan Belcher's the man. Him and Mike Sanford are excellent coaches. The problem is just not enough depth as far as guys. You know what I mean? Like the bigger the team, the more consistent training. You know, because if your partner gets sick or has to leave town or whatever, you got 5 more guys that are killers. You know, so American Tap Team has been really, really good to me. Just nothing but killers in that room, man. I mean, there's not one guy in there that's a chump. So it's been really good. It's helped me accelerate quickly.
Yeah, especially guys with, Andre Arlovsky, man, he's been fighting for, it almost seems like 20 years now, it's just, he's an
Yeah.
OG of the sport, and having someone to be there next to you and grind with you and seeing the hard work, even though after these many years of being at the top, it can be very motivating, right?
Oh, super motivating. Yeah. And, those guys are awesome teachers. They can kind of sense my hunger and how much I want it and how much I'm willing to work for it. So they've been giving me time, and showing me the ropes and kind of how to get it done. So I'm very confident. The thing is, nobody I fight in the near future is going to be anywhere as tough as those guys. You know what I mean? So, I feel sorry for my next opponent.
Down there, there's so many coaches. Like, who have you latched onto and worked with closely to develop yourself?
Yeah, Steve Mako, I would say, is the man. I mean, we kind of come from the same background as far as wrestling goes, wrestling then MMA. So he's been instrumental to my development. Steve Bruno has helped a lot with my striking. But King Mo has been really, really good for me. Me and him have kind of become friends, and yeah, he's got my back. He's the one, in sparring, telling me what to do, what not to do, yelling at me. He'll be the one cornering my next fight. So yeah, King Mo is probably my main guy along with Steve Mako.
I feel King Mo, since he just retired, he's gonna become, like, within the next couple of years, one of the best coaches in the game. Even though he's been coaching while he was fighting, but man, now he can focus purely on the coaching. He's gonna have, and he has a stable of killers, like yourself, where he
Yeah,
just embeds the knowledge. Man, it's gonna be pretty insane what
man,
he's gonna do.
I'll tell you something about King Mo. The reason that that's going to come true is because that guy cares. I mean, if you come to him and you're like, and it doesn't matter when it is, and you're like, hey man, show me how to do this, show me how to do that, I get caught here. Man, he has a heart for this stuff, and he has a heart for people. And that's kind of what drew me to him. I love his character as a man, and that's why we connected, so he's going to be a phenomenal coach, and he's going to have a lot of loyal fighters following him for sure.
So what's the plan? Do you have a fight coming up in the summer? Anything booked? It seems like
Yeah, so Impact Fitness in Panama City, Florida. They've got a guy named Rashawn Jackson. He's like a 5-3 guy. He agreed to fight me in August 1st, but I don't know if it's going to happen. If I guess we'll wait and see. But I really, really hope that he steps up to the plate and we get it in.
Do you see yourself possibly filling in a spot for the Contender series? That's also in August. I've been hearing like they're gonna have like 4 shows that month.
Yeah.
If you can't find a fight, I don't see why not. Why would the UFC wouldn't allow you that opportunity?
Yeah, I hope that they would. I know my record is small right now, but you know, they can just call ATT and ask if I'm ready. They'll tell them. I'm a competitor. I'm ready for the next level. I'm ready to graduate. My record's small right now, but it's gonna build. It's gonna build quick. I'll take fights. I'll fight whoever. So yeah, I mean, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to get in there. I hang with the best and the best out there. So come on.
So it seems like you just ready. Like, hey, I could take a late notice fight. Put me in, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've trained right through this quarantine. I'm ready to go. And I'm one of those guys. I'm a year-round trainer. Division I wrestlers. We didn't really do the whole fight camp, and then rest thing. We train all the time. Off season, we're training. I'm used to it, and I don't burn out. So that's what I've been doing. So yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right, man. Well, it was good getting to know you, and hopefully you do get signed. I can see you by at least at the latest by next year. You know what I mean? You'll be in some big promotion, and then everybody will be talking about you, man. So keep doing what you do. Keep working hard, man. You have a great team, great coaches. and all you need to do is put in that work, and you'll be there, right?
All right, thanks, John. Appreciate you, man.